They promised brotherhood. They delivered betrayal. 36 men walked away from Australia's largest Bikie gang in a single day. Nick Martin was assassinated watching drag races with his family. Jamie Ginn died in a watch house, convinced government drones were hunting him. The brotherhood is dead. What you're about to hear will shatter everything you thought you knew about outlaw motorcycle gangs. This is the truth they don't want you to know. Australia is home to 35 outlaw motorcycle gangs, with around 3,500 patched members. These aren't just weekend riders who love Harleys. Law enforcement identifies them as self-styled one-percenters who pose a significant threat to the Australian community, manufacturing and selling methamphetamine while destroying families and shooting up streets. The Rebels stand as the nation's largest club, with approximately 2,000 members spread across 29 chapters. They dwarf every other gang in Australia. Founded by former boxer Alex Vella in 1969, they built an empire on the back of what they called brotherhood. But that brotherhood has become a lie. In 2024, Australia witnessed one of the largest mass resignations in underworld history, when 36 Rebels members handed in their patches following a conflict between Sydney bosses and Western Australian chapters. Senior Perth member Carl Labrook, who had been with the club for 25 years, quit after National President Damien Vella questioned his integrity. But the fracture ran deeper than a single dispute. Many members were appalled by the lack of support given to brothers jailed during a vicious war with the Mongols gang. The exodus revealed something disturbing about modern Bikie culture. Former traditional Bikies interviewed by authorities say the so-called Nike Bikies don't join clubs for love of motorcycles or brotherhood. They join purely for self-interest and material gain. Many of these young members don't even own motorcycles, let alone know how to ride them. Loyalty within clubs has been destroyed by greed. Where once a member was a member for life, it's now commonplace for Bikies to switch clubs or patch over to enhance their status, or capitalize on money-making opportunities. One former member described their club as a pyramid scheme designed so people at the top could exploit those below. Another said, clubs abandon members when they become inconvenient or no longer financially productive, such as when hospitalized or arrested. One former Bikie put it bluntly, "They don't give two stuffs about you. All they want is your money." The violence tells its own story. The Milpera massacre of 1984 between the Comancheros and Bandidos left 7 people dead, 6 gang members and a 14-year-old bystander caught in the crossfire. In 2008, gang conflict escalated dramatically with 13 shootings occurring in Sydney within just 2 weeks. On March 22, 2009, the Bikie Code was rewritten in blood at Sydney Airport when Anthony Zervis was bludgeoned and stabbed to death in front of horrified travelers, women and children included, during a brawl between Hells Angels and Comancheros members. Police estimated as many as 15 men participated in the violence. The airport killing brought national attention to gang wars that had been raging in outer Sydney, but it also marked a turning point. The publicity forced gang leaders to refocus on their core business model, making billions from the drug trade. Despite the shock of the Milpera massacre, Bikie gangs actually increased in number after 1984 due to massive profits from selling methamphetamine. Between 1994 and 2000, a consolidation period saw larger clubs eliminate smaller ones, causing 35 murders. The number of clubs was reduced from 178 in 1994 to just 32 in 2000. In 1994, representatives from 6 major gangs, the Hells Angels, Outlaws, Bandidos, Rebels, Black Oolans, and Nomads, attended a summit in Sydney where they agreed to the Australia 2000 Pact, which declared that criminal activities would be controlled by these 6 core gangs by the year 2000. The drug trade drives everything. A United Nations report estimated that the methamphetamine market throughout Southeast Asia, East Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and Bangladesh is worth between 30.3 and 61.4 billion US dollars annually. Australia and New Zealand alone represent $11.1 billion of that market due to extortionate drug prices in those countries. The price of a kilogram of methamphetamine in Australia is roughly 80 times higher than the price in China. Australian federal police believe motorcycle gangs are involved in up to half of large-scale drug importations sent to Australia, and most of the big clandestine manufacturing labs found in the country. One former bikie explained the lure. Why go to work 40 hours for $1,500 when you can get that in one deal and sit out the rest of the week? In South Australia alone, police estimate that 80% of nightclubs and bars use security companies owned by bikie gangs whose staff are gang members. The tentacles reach everywhere. In 2017, authorities made a massive bust. 8 men were convicted over the importation of 1.2 tons of methamphetamine into Western Australia. At the time, Australia's biggest meth seizure. The drugs had a street value of more than $1.12 billion and could have been sold as at least 12 million street-level deals. The operation involved multiple criminal groups from New South Wales and South Australia, with connections to international outlaw motorcycle gangs and triad criminal groups who combined their resources to organize the large-scale importation. But the biggest blow came in 2021 with Operation Ironside. This was a 3-year covert investigation into transnational and serious organized crime using a dedicated encrypted communications device called AN0M, secretly run by the FBI and Australian Federal Police. During Operation Ironside, there were 1,659 active ANOM devices in Australia, with 19.37 million messages detected. Criminals thought they were communicating securely. In reality, law enforcement was reading every message in real time. As of June 2024, Operation Ironside resulted in 392 alleged offenders charged with 2,355 offenses, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and dealing in proceeds of crime. More than 6.6 tons of illicit drugs and $55.6 million in cash were seized, along with 149 weapons and firearms. Of the arrests made under Operation Ironside, 99 were alleged Bikies and associates, 1/3 of all arrests. The hardest hit were the Comancheros, with 76 arrests, representing 3/4 of the alleged criminals rounded up from ANOM intercepts. In South Australia alone, police seized 90 kilograms of methamphetamine worth $45 million, 50 liters of fantasy, 350 kilograms of cannabis, 10,000 ecstasy tablets, and 30 illegal firearms. 2 clandestine drug labs were uncovered, including one capable of producing $25 million worth of methamphetamine each week. Luxury cars worth $3 million were seized, including a Maserati, 2 Lamborghinis, and a Bentley, along with $1.9 million in cash, jewelry, valuable watches, and wine collections. Operation Ironside exposed something darker. 4 Adelaide men, all alleged Comanchero members, were charged with conspiracy to lure and seriously assault a fellow Bikie member, one of their own, at the North Adelaide Aquatic Centre. So much for brotherhood. The violence against their own members isn't isolated. Sydney underworld figure Abazar Sultani, a former Rebels member, shot fellow gang member Mark Easter during a tense meeting in June 2015. Sultani said he believed it was me or him, and after Easter slumped over a chair, he shot him several more times to ensure he was dead. Easter's body was found dumped on a fire trail with a bag tied around his head after being left in a bathtub with ice for several days. The West Australian rebels have been particularly devastated. In December 2020, State President Nick Martin was shot dead while watching drag races at Perth Motorplex. Martin had occasionally stepped up as acting national president and was considered a towering figure in Australia's underworld. Carl Labrook, Martin's sergeant-at-arms for over a decade, later testified in court that Martin had demanded members pay monthly dues in cash. Disquiet emerged when money was suspected to have gone missing or into renovations at Martin's house, with Labrook describing Martin's leadership as a bit more of a dictatorship. Martin's assassination was followed 3 years later by the jailhouse death of new state president Jamie Ginn. Ginn's presidency was derailed by paranoid delusion. He was convinced hundreds of shadowy government operatives were watching his every move using drones the size of small cars, capable of astonishing speeds. He died from a seizure in the Perth Watch House in October 2023 after being arrested over firearms offenses. Some members do escape. Ryan Peake was a child prodigy golfer who became a rebel's bikie and was sent to prison for 5 years after bashing a drug dealer. While in jail, he received a letter from legendary sports coach Richie Smith, who convinced him to give golf another shot. Peake spoke to other rebels he was imprisoned with, and they gave him their blessing to leave the club. He handed back his colors with 2 years left on his sentence. A risky move because he lost the protection afforded by being a patch bikie. Today, Peake plays professional golf. Shane Martin, father of AFL star Dustin Martin, was deported from Australia to New Zealand due to his criminal record and links to the rebels. He later wrote a tell-all book about his experiences in the gang, but these success stories are rare. The statistics paint a grim picture. Research shows that 1 in 4 outlaw motorcycle gang members had been apprehended for recent offenses involving violence and intimidation, and 1 in 8 for organized crime-type offenses. However, data also reveals a more complex truth. Outlaw motorcycle gang members were found guilty of just 0.17% of all reported offenses in Queensland and 0.06% in the ACT between 2000 and 2019. The failed prosecution rate for bikie gang members in Queensland is 23% compared to 6% for the general population. This suggests that while bikie gangs don't usually engage in organized crime as a collective unit, their threat arises from small numbers of members conspiring with other criminals for a common purpose. The modern bikie landscape has evolved. Australian bikie gangs have transformed into sophisticated transnational criminal organizations, collaborating with authentic mafia organizations like the Ndrangheta and Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. They've established outposts throughout Southeast Asia to position themselves at the forefront of the methamphetamine trade. Small island nations like Fiji and Tonga have become fundamental hubs in the drug trade between the Americas and Australia, with big bikie gangs establishing chapters there, often thanks to deported members. Law enforcement continues adapting. Members report being stopped multiple times during rides, with police checking licenses, registrations, and examining motorcycles for defects under consorting laws. One Sydney chapter boss described being stopped 3 times during a 2-hour ride from Sydney to Canberra, despite his Harley-Davidson being brand new with less than 1,000 kilometers. The reality is clear. The brotherhood is broken. The loyalty is gone. The violence is escalating. Members turn on each other for money. Leadership is corrupt, and the only winners are those at the very top of the pyramid until they're assassinated, arrested, or both. When Carl Labrook defected to the Comancheros in 2024, he wore their black and gold colors to court, an unofficial announcement that shocked the Australian underworld. At least 6 other Western Australian rebels followed him. The mass exodus continues. For anyone considering this lifestyle, the evidence speaks for itself. The glamour is a facade. The brotherhood is a business transaction. The loyalty lasts only as long as you're profitable. And the ending is almost always the same: prison, betrayal, or death. This is the dark truth behind the bikie life. This is what they don't tell you when they're recruiting. This is reality.